Greetings, BookTube! Welcome back to the History Shelf. My name is Peg. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday uh, in America. And if you're elsewhere around the globe, I hope you had a wonderful week last week. I meant to do a video yesterday, but time got away from me. First day back to work. So this is a video, Giving Tuesday. It is Giving Tuesday, right? So I thought, what better thing could I give back to the community? I could give you a book haul. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We are going to be doing a book haul here at the History Shelf of probably a big order of Hamilton books. I didn't get them yesterday. I got them, a couple months ago. I'm just now getting around to filming it. So without further ado, this is from Hamilton Book, one of my favorite bargain booksellers. So get ready with a pen and paper, pencil and paper, your online notepad, whatever. I know a lot of you like to jot down names of books, check the timestamp, see where the book shows up, and then head on over and get your own copy. I got a nice variety of stuff here. I've got 3 stacks, so this is all not going to fit in one video. But we're going to do the best we can. And then one programming note I should mention. So over Thanksgiving, it's become a 2-year trend now where one of us has been sick. We had planned on filming our wrap-up of Miss Marple's, not Miss Marple's, Agatha Christie's Miss Marple mystery at Bertram's Hotel. We were going to film it over the weekend, the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Martine came down with what we think could be shingles, which is what I had the year before. Around the same time, it was crazy. But she, I don't know if it's in her ear, but she had severe ear pain. She got some medication, antiviral. But she's still feeling under the weather, and so we're just waiting until she is back to her old self so we can film our tongue-in-cheek, slightly sarcastic, full of dry wit, our wrap-up of our Marple a month, so we can get back on track. Because my goal is that we were going to start reading Nemesis in December. Still my goal. So, but let me circle back with Martine and see what she thinks. And another thing too is like with that Bertram's Hotel, we're kind of not looking forward to doing it in a way because we just don't have a lot of good things to say about At Bertram's Hotel. We have finished the book, we have seen both adaptations, so we do have a lot to say. But there were some key themes that I think Martine picked out that were really quite smart. Yeah, that's right. Right, honey. You're very smart. Okay, and I've got some new lighting here that she bought me, which is fantastic, but it might, there we go. If I lean back a little bit, that might be the perfect, it changes the focus a little bit. So we're going to try this out, but I'm getting production quality lighting now. Slowly here at the History Shelf, we are bumping up the quality, and if I could just get more hours in a day, maybe I could figure out how to edit these things in a timely fashion and put in the bells and whistles, but that's not happening anytime soon. But thanks for coming back. All right, here we go. On our Giving Tuesday, I'm giving you a bunch of books you might want to check out. All right, is this? Did I buy this used? Well, this one's got a Mylar cover. I don't even know how this got in here. Okay, we're going to start off with this book. This is America in the World, A History of U.S. Diplomacy and Foreign Policy by Robert B. Zoellick. There you go. This was put out by 12 Publishing. I got this at Hamilton Book. Let's see here. Pretty big book, about 500 odd pages. Let's see here. So this book tells the vibrant story of American diplomacy. As Robert Zoellick recounts the actors and events of U.S. foreign policy, he identifies 5 traditions that have emerged from America's encounters with the world. The importance of North America, the home continent, that's us, okay. The special roles of trading, transnational, and technological relations in defining ties with others. changing attitudes towards alliances and ways of ordering connections among states, the need for public support, especially through the Congress, and the belief that American policy should serve a larger purpose. These traditions frame a closing review of post-Cold War presidencies. And Zolik foresees their possible use as guideposts for the future. So, every now and then I like to read a good foreign policy book, or about diplomacy. And it's got some really good inserts, color inserts in black and white too. Ooh, John Quincy Adams up in there. I hope I'm not throwing off. This light might be a little bright. Pause one moment. Hey everybody, I'm back. My producer came in and we played with the lighting a little bit. So again, this is going to be our little test video, but I think it's good enough for this video. Well, I always want to bring you great quality videos, but anyway, I think it looks great. So America in the World, I picked this up probably for like $8. I'm gonna have to put this on the ground. What? Ooh, I've been wanting this book, and I was waiting until it would hit a bargain book price. So I finally got my hot little hands on the Mount Battens. The Lives and Loves of Dickie and Edwina Mountbatten. It's funny, I haven't watched The Crown in ages, and then last night, for some reason, I was like, they're putting up the last season. I think it's the last season, season 6, and I had stopped watching it one episode into season 5, so I went and started watching it again, and it kind of drew me back in, so I'm back on track. But I love the early seasons of The Crown with Claire Foy, and then learning all about the Mountbattens and Philip's relationship to them, and what happened to Dickie Mountbatten. Yeah, so this is that new biography that came out a couple years ago. Yeah, 2021. It's the intimate story of a unique marriage spanning the heights of British glamour and power that descends into infidelity, manipulation, and disaster through the heart of the 20th century. If you don't know who they are, I'll tell you real quick. So Dickie Mountbatten, he was a major figure behind his nephew Philip's marriage to Queen Elizabeth II, and instrumental in the royal family taking the Mountbatten name. He was Supreme Allied Commander of Southeast Asia during World War II, and the last I always never know. I'm going to embarrass myself. The Viceroy? Viceroy of India. So there you have it. And then Edwina was his wife, once the richest woman in Britain, and a playgirl who enjoyed numerous affairs. Yeah, it's all about their love affair. Ooh, no, wait. Let's get into some dirty stuff here. Was Dickie Mountbatten one of the outstanding leaders of his generation, or a man overpromoted because of his royal birth, high-level connections, film star looks, and ruthless self-promotion? What is the true story behind controversies such as the Dieppe raid and Indian partition, the love affair between Edwina and Nehru, that was one of the leaders of India, and Dickie's assassination in 1979? So this sounds like some juicy reading, and I'm looking forward to it. Got it at Hamilton Book. Rolling on. Oh, yes. I was really excited to see this book listed at Hamilton Book because I have a couple of books by him. He's a very prominent historian of America's early history. I think the Founding Fathers. Yeah, this is Bernard Bailyn. Ooh, whoa, that's blown out. Okay, that is, woo! Illuminating History, a retrospective of 7 decades by Bernard Bailyn. Put out by Norton. This came out, it's a slim little volume. This is a fun little photograph in the beginning of the front pages there. That is our historian there. This book came out in 2020. It says here, over a remarkable career, Bernard Bailyn has reshaped our understanding of the early American past, inscribing his superb scholarship with passion and imagination honed by a commitment to rigor. Bailyn captures the particularity of the past and its broad significance in precise, elegant prose. His transformative work has ranged from a new reckoning with the ideology that powered the opposition to British authority in the American Revolution and the critical nurturing of a new field, the history of the Atlantic world. So, Illuminating History, this book here, is the most personal of Baylin's works. It is in part an intellectual memoir of the significant turns in an immensely productive and influential scholarly career. It is also alive with people whose actions touched the long arc of history. Among the dramatic human stories that command our attention, a struggling Boston merchant tormented by the tensions between capitalist avarice and a constrictive Puritan piety. An ordinary shopkeeper who in a unique way feverishly condemned British authority as corrupt and unworthy of public confidence. A charismatic German pietist who founded a cloister in the Pennsylvania wilderness, famous for its strange theosophy, its Spartan lifestyle, and its rich musical and artistic achievement. And the good townspeople of Petersham, whose response in 1780 to a draft Massachusetts Constitution speaks directly to us through a moving insistence on individual freedoms in the face of an imposing central authority. So this is, one of the most eminent historians of our time. Yeah, I was really pleased to find this book. It should be really good. All right, I'm moving on. So I debated on this one back and forth. I put it in my cart, took it out, put it in, took it out, put it in, took it out, and then put it back in. But it sounds interesting. This is called In Byrons Wake, The Turbulent Lives of Lord Byron's Wife and Daughter, Annabella Milbank and Ada Lovelace. See that? There we go. She also was the author of Mary Shelley, which sounds good. Like, if I enjoy this, I might pick up that book. This is a Pegasus book that came out 2018. So it's a masterful portrait of two remarkable women, revealing how their turbulent lives were always haunted by the quicksilver spirit of Lord Byron. In 1815, the clever, courted, and cherished Annabella Milbank married the notorious Lord Byron. Just 1 year later, she fled, taking with her their baby daughter, the future Ada Lovelace. Byron himself escaped into exile and died as a revolutionary hero in 1824, aged 36. The one thing he had asked his wife to do was to make sure that their daughter never became a poet. Ada didn't. Brought up by a mother who became one of the most progressive reformers of Victorian England, Byron's little girl was introduced to mathematics as a means of calming her wild spirits. That's cool. Educated by some of the most learned minds in England, she combined that scholarly discipline with a rebellious heart and a visionary imagination. As a child invalid, Ada dreamed of building a steam-driven flying horse. As an exuberant and boldly unconventional young woman, she amplified her explanations of Charles Babbage's unbuilt calculating engine to predict, as nobody would do for another century, the dawn of the modern computer age. When Ada died, boy, they're giving away all the spoilers in this book. When Ada died, like her father, she was only 36. Great things seemed still to lie ahead for her as a passionate astronomer. Even while mired in debt from gambling and crippled by cancer, she was frenetically employing Faraday's experiments with light refraction. Wow, to explore the analysis of distant stars. So it's a remarkable portrait of two remarkable women. And that's about 500 pages. Hope it didn't get, just reading the dust jacket, it's like, well, I guess I know everything I need to know. It's kind of like a movie trailer, right? Where you watch the movie and they put everything into the trailer, so there's nothing surprising in the movie. But no, I think this is going to be a rich history. So I'm looking forward to it. Next book. Yeah, I've been meaning to get around to this because we all know Gore Vidal, and but yeah, I don't know. I wanted a really good biography on him. I've seen documentaries. I've read a couple of his books, but I kind of wanted to get a take on his very interesting life. So I picked up Empire of Self. Get a good angle on this. A Life of Gore Vidal by Jay Perini. It's a really good. Again, when you order from Hamilton Book, the most you'll get is like a remainder marker dot. these are all brand new books. There's nothing wrong with this. It's not been used. It's just publisher's overstock. I like the cover because it's got this rich wine color spine. There you go. Get a really good sense of the color there. And the font is this wine color. And it's a really great photo of him. Um, let's see. The product of 30 years of friendship and conversation, Empire of Self digs behind the glittering surface of Gore Vidal's colorful career to reveal the complex emotional and sexual truths underlying his celebrity-strewn life. But there is plenty of glittering surface as well, a virtual who's who of the 20th century, from Eleanor Roosevelt and Amelia Earhart, one of my heroes, through the Kennedys, Johnny Carson, Leonard Bernstein, and the creme de la creme of Hollywood. Oh, I can't wait for this next part. Also, a generous helping of feuds with the likes of William F. Buckley, Norman Mailer, Truman Capote, and the New York Times, among other adversaries. So this looks good. I would keep reading, but I've got a lot of books to get to. So I think they still might have these few copies left on Hamilton book. I think when I bought this, they had the little stamp on there saying "last chance." That could be a marketing ploy, but it worked on me. So I bit, and I got it. So looking forward to this juicy biography of Gore Vidal. Oh, what are these doing here? Oh, sorry. These books are for another. These are for my next round of casemate books. So hang on. Those go there. All right. Ooh. So I'm really excited about this book because, well, not because of, but I happened to order this way before World War November started. It was a month long, and we're going to be doing a wrap up soon, and we got to get that scheduled. But myself and several other booktubers were looking at reading books, histories, fiction, journalism, poetry from World War One, or about World War One. So, but I ordered this book way before this was even a thing I even knew I was going to be doing it. But I find it very fascinating. And this is called The Great War and the Birth of Modern Medicine: A History by Thomas Helling, MD. Another great Pegasus book right here. This is a very recent book. When it first came out, I was like, I really want to get it. There's a great picture on the back there. I've always been interested in, medical advancements. I started really getting interested in that from the American Civil War, just how some of the battlefield surgeries, uh, the Red Cross, the nurses. I've just always been intrigued by how medical advancements have come out of wars. Ooh, some gruesome pictures in here. But this one is all about how, the Great War really kind of catapulted some of the modern medical discoveries. It says here, the story of the startling medical advances that developed as a reaction to the horrors unleashed by World War One. So the Great War, as if you don't know, was from 1914 to 1918. And it burst on the European scene with a brutality to mankind not yet witnessed to the civilized world, or by the civilized world. Modern warfare was no longer the stuff of chivalry and honor. It was a mutilative, deadly, and humbling exercise to wipe out the very presence of humanity. Suddenly, thousands upon thousands of maimed, beaten, and bleeding men surged into aid stations and hospitals with injuries unimaginable in their scope and destruction. Doctors scrambled to find some way to salvage not only life but limb. So in this book, we get an authoritative account of the efforts of doctors and researchers to quickly develop medical and surgical solutions. Those problems of gas gangrene, hemorrhagic shock, gas poisoning, brain trauma, facial disfigurement, broken bones, and broken spirits flooded hospital beds, stressing caregivers and prompting medical innovations that would last far beyond the armistice of 1918, eventually providing the backbone of modern medical therapy. So Thomas Helling's description of events that shaped refinements of medical care is a riveting account of the ingenuity and resourcefulness of men and women to deter the total destruction of the human body and the human mind. His tales of surgical daring, industrial collaboration, scientific discovery, and utter compassion provide an understanding of the horror that laid a foundation for the medical wonders of today. The marvels of resuscitation, blood transfusion, brain surgery, x-rays, and bone setting all had their beginnings on the battlefields of France. The influenza contagion in 1918 was an ominous forerunner, right, of the frightening pandemic of 2020 to 2021. So for anyone curious about the true terrors of war and the miracles of modern medicine, this is a must-read. And I agree. I think this is going to be fascinating and quite unlike many of the other things I read about, just about battles and stuff. But this is about the other side of battles, like with the broken bodies and oh, oh God, is this a photograph? Or I think this is a drawing. This is an amputated arm that shows the effects of gangrene, gas gangrene. But yeah, men just lining up. They're blinded by mustard gas. But in photos and pictures of the prominent doctors and nurses and there is a female in here. Hang on, there we go. I think that's where are you? There you are. Yeah, that's Madame Curie. That's what I thought. Anyway, if you're interested, you got to go to Hamilton Book. You're not going to find it anywhere cheaper unless you buy it used, and this is brand new. So, again, I don't make any commission I'm just saying it's one of the best bargain places out there, and I feel like outside of a few people on BookTube, no one else really talks about it, and it's just like, why? Why go to Books A Million? Why go to Book Depository? You want a brand new book for $5.95, $6.95, $7.95? You go to Hamilton. That's all. Okay, so I had my eye on this book for a little while. It's just from Yale University Press. I think I have another book that kind of talks about there's a similar dust jacket. And I know my friend John David at his channel, I know he picked this one up. He already has this one. But this is The Social Life of Books, Reading Together in the 18th Century Home by Abigail Williams. A nice little book there. It says 2 centuries before the advent of radio, television, and motion pictures, books were a cherished form of popular entertainment and an integral component of domestic social life. Imagine that. But here on BookTube we get that, but elsewhere in the culture, not so much. In this fascinating and vivid history, Abigail Williams explores the ways in which shared reading shaped the lives and literary culture of the time, offering new perspectives on how books have been used by their readers and the part they have played in middle-class homes and families. Drawing on marginalia, letters and diaries, library catalogs, elocution manuals, subscription lists, and more, Williams offers fresh and fascinating insights into reading, performance, and the history of middle-class home life. So how neat is that? It's richly, I keep saying that a lot, richly illustrated. But I mean, there's a lot within the pages that they're kind of threaded throughout. There's not like an insert with glossy photos, but like every few pages you'll get something fun. Let me find one with some books, folks. What are we doing here? Well, there's that. There we go. Diary and a memorandum book. Got these things here. So it looks kind of a book about books and a book about reading, and I love it in history. So, The Social Life of Books. Okay, Christopher Clark. Many of you who are into reading about World War One, we're going to head back to World War One real quick. I do have his other work, The Sleepwalkers. It has been so long since I have looked at it or read it, and I'd like to go back to it. But I came across another book. It was a Princeton University Press book, and it was marked down. It was a bargain book on Hamilton. And this is by Christopher Clark. It's quite different. It's Time and Power. Visions of History in German politics from the 30 Years' War to the Third Reich. So I was like, well, you've already kind of sold me on the writer, historian. So let's see what this is about. So it says here, this groundbreaking book presents new perspectives on how the exercise of power is shaped by different notions of time. Acclaimed historian Clark draws on 4 key figures from German history: Friedrich Wilhelm of Brandenburg, Prussia, Frederick the Great, Otto von Bismarck, and Adolf Hitler, to look at history through a temporal lens and ask how historical actors and their regimes embody unique conceptions of time, which is quite interesting. Inspired by the insights of Reinhard Koselleck and Francois Hartog, 2 pioneers of the temporal turn in historiography, Clark shows how Friedrich Wilhelm rejected the notion of continuity with the past, believing instead that a sovereign must liberate the state from the entanglements of tradition to choose freely among different possible futures. Idiot. Sorry, I thought I'd just see if you're still awake out there. I don't mean that. I'm just. All right. He demonstrates how Frederick II abandoned this paradigm for. Yeah. Friedrich is not an idiot. I'm just kidding. He demonstrates how Frederick II abandoned this paradigm for a neoclassical vision of history in which sovereign and state transcend time altogether, and how Bismarck believed that the statesman's duty was to preserve the timeless permanence of the state amid the torrent of historical change. Go, Bismarck! No, I was kidding. Clark describes how Hitler did not seek to revolutionize history like Stalin and Mussolini, but instead sought to evade history altogether, emphasizing, as we know, emphasizing timeless racial stereotypes and archetypes in a prophetically foretold future. So, Time and Power takes readers from the 30 Years' War to the fall of the Third Reich, revealing the connection between political power and the distinct temporalities of the leaders who wield it. So there you go. And there's our fine fellow author here, Christopher Clark. Sleepwalkers, fantastic book as well on World War I. So something a little different there. Okay, I got to start a new pile down here. Also, really intrigued at this book. I think it's more on the expensive side. Which when I say expensive side on Hamilton book, that means $9.95. Okay, which to me is like still very cheap. So a lot of times if there's books out there that I want and I'm just not ready to pay $30, $35, $40, I'll wait a year or two and eventually it makes its way to Hamilton book. This is called The Delusions of Crowds: Why People Go Mad in Groups by William J. Bernstein. A very evocative cover that kind of tells you everything you need to know. This looks like an Atlantic Monthly book here. This book came out 2021 and a little under 500 pages. And we do have inserts, glossy photos, black and white and color. Anyway, but that's just the aesthetics. Let's get to the meat. We are the apes who tell stories, writes William Bernstein. And no matter how misleading the narrative, if it is compelling enough, it will nearly always trump the facts. As Bernstein shows in his eloquent and persuasive book, The Delusion of Crowds, throughout human history, compelling stories have catalyzed the spread of contagious narratives through susceptible groups with enormous, often disastrous consequences. Inspired by Charles Mackay's 19th century classic, which I have on my list. I did want to read this because it was referenced. Charles Mackay's book was referenced in something else I had read a few years ago about the insanity of the group insanity. When people are getting groups, they just lose all sense of not say right and wrong, but they would do things they normally wouldn't by themselves. Yeah, so inspired by Charles Mackay's 19th century classic Memoirs of Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds, Bernstein engages with mass delusion with the same curiosity and passion, but armed with the latest scientific research that explains the biological, evolutionary, and psychosocial roots of human irrationality. Bernstein tells the stories of dramatic religious and financial mania in Western society over the last 500 years, from the Anabaptist madness, that sounds like a party, Anabaptist madness, that afflicted the Low Countries in the 1530s to the dangerous end times beliefs that animate ISIS and pervade today's polarized America. True. And from the South Sea bubble to the Enron scandal and dot-com bubble of recent years. In Bernstein's prose, the participants are as colorful as their motivation. Invariably, the desire to improve one's well-being in this life or the next. Yeah, so it's it's categorized under social science, and it says here it chronicles. His chronicle reveals the huge cost and alarming implications of mass mania. And he observes that if we can absorb the history and biology of mass delusion, we can recognize it more readily in our own time and avoid its often dire consequences. But do we see people avoiding that? No. Interesting. We got a lot of interesting stuff going on here. Fresh, right? Then you got, of course, you got that. And then you got, what else do we have here? The financial stuff, that seems interesting. I've never kind of heard of that. I guess it's just people jumping on a bandwagon for like the time of the .com and the financial things. But anyway, the delusion of crowds, why people go mad in groups, seemed very intriguing. Hi, Roxy. I'm putting her to sleep over here. Oh, so I had already read this book, and I actually had written a review for it for one of the many publications I review for. And this was gosh, was it a few years ago already? But all I had was the PDF that the editor had sent me. And I loved it so much. I gave it a really good review. I was like, when this book comes out, it came out in 2021. I was like, I need to own it, even though I've already read it, because I also would like to have the photos. I didn't get a finished copy, and the PDF did not have the photographs. But this was such a great book, and it goes from my love of Russian history. And I highly encourage you to check it out if you are also interested in, around the time of the Russian Revolution and after. Just if you're into that period, I highly recommend this book. And this was $9.95 on Hamilton, but it was well worth it because I loved this. And I had never heard of this guy, but now I'm like, wow, what an interesting man. This is To Break Russia's Chains, Boris Savinkov and His Wars Against the Tsar and the Bolsheviks by Vladimir Alexandrov. There we go. Try to get that glare off of there. This was just a fantastic book. Nice big fat read. He led such an interesting life. So let me tell you a little bit about him. We're at the 33-minute mark here. Okay, and I still have more books to show you. You know what? What I'll do is this one is the history part of it. I did buy some fiction during that Hamilton book haul. Let's see how much more I can squeeze in here. So Boris Savinkov was famous and notorious both at home and abroad during his lifetime, which spanned the end of the Russian Empire and the establishment of the Soviet Union. A complex and conflicted individual, he was a paradoxically moral revolutionary terrorist. Which talk about, yeah, that is paradoxical. As well as a scandalous novelist, a friend of epoch-defining artists like Modigliani and Diego Rivera, a government minister, a tireless fighter against Lenin and the Bolsheviks, and an advisor to Churchill. Wow. At the end of his life, Savinkov conspired to be captured by the Soviet secret police, and as the country's most prized political prisoner, he made headlines around the world when he claimed that he accepted the Bolshevik state. But, as Vladimir Alexandrov argues, this was Savinkov's final play as a gambler. He had staked his life on a secret plan to strike one last blow against the tyrannical regime. Ah, now I remember the end of this book. Wow. Yeah, this guy was something. Neither a red nor a white. Sabankov, and if you know Russian history, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't, I urge you to look it up. Sabankov lived an epic life that challenges many popular myths about the Russian Revolution, which was arguably the most important catalyst of 20th century world history. All of Sabankov's efforts were directed at transforming his homeland into a uniquely democratic, humane, and enlightened state. There are aspects of his violent legacy that will and should remain frozen in the past as part of the historical record, but the support he received from many of his countrymen suggests that the paths Russia took during the 20th and 21st centuries, such as the tyranny of communism, the authoritarianism of Putin's regime, were not the only ones written in her historical destiny. Sabankov's goals remain a poignant reminder of how things in Russia could have been, and how perhaps they may still become someday. Yeah, this was a great book. So I'm going to reread this. I want this on my shelf with all my other Russian history titles. But there's our guy, is a very young man at the top. It's good stuff in here. See, I didn't get these photos in my PDF, like I said, so I'm really like kind of geeked out by getting to see all the pictures of the people I read about. Um, but To Break Russia's Chains, I highly, highly recommend this book. It's fantastic. All right. Did I get this? So okay, so this one, I think it just came in, it's new, looks new, and it's got a Mylar cover on it, but it kind of goes in with, the Russian theme. This is Who Lost Russia? How the World Entered a New Cold War by Peter Conradi. Um, this came out, mm, I won't read too long on this one, so I can get to a few more books here. This came out in 2017, so this is a little bit older, but it says here, the collapse of the Soviet Union at the end of 1991 appeared to usher in a remarkable new era of peace and cooperation with the West. This, we were told, was the end of history. Now the entire world would embrace Enlightenment values and liberal democracy. Reality has proved very different. Russia emerged from the 90s battered and humiliated. The latter day Weimar Germany, its protests ignored as NATO expanded eastwards to take in Moscow's former satellites. Vladimir Putin offered a new start when he took the place of the erratic Boris Yeltsin in the Kremlin, but determined to restore his country's bruised pride, he was wrong-footed. The West he has wrong-footed the West with his incursions into Georgia, Ukraine, and Syria. A Cold War threatens to turn hot once again, in which it did, because when this was written, obviously, what else? What else did he do? The first invasion of Ukraine? No, there was an earlier invasion of Ukraine, but then there was the Crimea annexation. So, yeah, if you can believe it, a 2017 book is a little bit dated in this, but I just thought it would be interesting. And again, I read anything, get my hands on when it deals with Russia. I have this weird fixation. I don't know what it is. But yeah, and it's got some great blurbs from other writers I really value, such as Helen Rappaport has written so many great books, especially dealing with the Tsar. Loved her book on the Romanov daughters. Serhiy Plokhy, fantastic historian and writer on all things Russian, Ukrainian history. Fantastic. So, Who Lost Russia by Peter Conradi. Now, this next book is a nonfiction. I guess you'd call it social science or history of crime in America, but the description sounded really interesting, and I like learning about other cities. One of my personal moment here, just so we take a little break from the dust jacket reading here. I watch a lot of YouTube. I pay for premium membership, so I don't have any of the ads, and so YouTube has become almost like my alternative TV station. I'll watch some things on Prime or Netflix, football and stuff. But I like going to YouTube to watch different types of videos. And I love watching videos that explore different cities across America. You know, it's just the genius of YouTube is that places I never would have seen, you know, I'm seeing now. Like people are just, they have their own channels where they are exploring places. I even watch I watch like urban explorers, you know, when they go into abandoned buildings. I'm just fascinated by the way people have lived, where they've lived, what it looks like now. Um, and a lot of it's very sad. Um, but I enjoy watching people go into cities and go to the good places and the bad and just show what that city is dealing with. So it made sense that this book would appeal to me because I kind of enjoy, I don't know, even just driving down the street. And Martine thinks I'm crazy, but I'm like, I always, when I'm driving down the street or she's driving and I'm looking out the window, and I'm always wondering, you know, you see a light behind, you know, it's like a curtain and then there's light and you're like, what does their house look like? You know, what, I'm not being weird or anything like that. I'm just like, you know, what's it like to live there? You know, I'm always trying to like see what the other person, how other people live. It's just, I guess I'm just fascinated with people and how many different pictures of life, like life can take so many uh, different ways of being, you know, and different portraits. And you know, I have mine, but I'm, you know, it's like I know my life. I know what it looks like here, but what does it look like elsewhere? Anyway, sorry. Okay, that was my little personal moment. But this is about Chicago. This is called An American Summer, Love and Death in Chicago by Alex Kotlowitz. This book came out in 2019. So it's about Chicago and its levels of violence. It says here the numbers are staggering. Over the past 20 years in Chicago, 14,033 people have been killed and another roughly 60,000 wounded by gunfire. What does that do to the spirit of individuals and communities? And that's what draws me to this. Again, I have an interest in other people and their life experience. Drawing on his decades of experience, Alex Kotlowitz set out to chronicle one summer in the city, writing of those who have emerged from the violence and whose stories reveal the capacity and the breaking point of the human heart and soul. The result is a spellbinding collection of deeply intimate stories that upend what we think we know about gun violence in America. It says here, among others, we meet a man who as a teenager killed a rival gang member and who, 20 years later, is still trying to come to terms with what he did. A devoted school social worker struggling with her favorite student who refuses to give evidence in the shooting death of his best friend. The witness to a wrongful police shooting who can't shake what he has seen. And an aging former gang leader who builds a place of refuge for himself and his friends. Yeah. Kotlowitz offers a tender-hearted yet piercingly honest testament to the strength of the human spirit. These sketches of those left standing will get in your bones. This one summer will stay with you. So I'm for it. I want to read it. I want to see what's going on. Yeah, and I like when they put in these personal stories and they really humanize the statistics. So I got this as well at Hamilton Book. Can Peg squeeze in a couple more? One moment while I roll across the room. Hello, books are in my what? There they go. There they go. Don't mind me. All right. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna try to do three more. Okay, and the rest are fiction, so I'll try to do those in another video. I've been meaning to read this as well. We're gonna get back to like policy books and stuff like this. I follow this guy on a YouTube podcast called Goodfellows. He's part of the Hoover Institution, and he's ex-military. And this is supposed to be a fantastic read with some meaty prescriptions. So this is H.R. McMaster's Battlegrounds: the Fight to Defend the Free World. So I got a paperback edition for super cheap. On Hamilton. Yeah, I can remember the name. And it already has a new afterword in the paperback edition, so I'm kind of pleased that I got the most up-to-date version. Let's see here. Across multiple administrations, American foreign policy has been misconceived, inconsistent, and poorly implemented. As a result, America and the free world have fallen behind their rivals in power and influence. Meanwhile, threats to security, freedom, and prosperity have grown. It is past time to move away from the mindset McMaster calls strategic narcissism and the tendency to define challenges and opportunities abroad only in relation to the U.S. America's narcissistic view undervalues the authorship that others, especially rivals, adversaries, and enemies, have over the future. McMaster recommends how to build strategic competence. This book fosters strategic empathy and understanding of how the recent past produced the present and I need a little sip of sparkling water. How the recent past produced the present and how ideology, emotion, and aspiration drive and constrain others. Empathy is foundational to overcoming threats from rivals, Russia and China, hostile states, Iran and North Korea, and across complex battlegrounds in South Asia and the Middle East. Improved competence is also necessary to prevail in new arenas of competition, including climate change, space, cyberspace, and emerging technologies. So that's a whole kit and caboodle right here. This one has a marker. That's fine. I just want to read it. I like McMaster. He makes good sense, and it's a great YouTube podcast if you're interested. He's on there with Neil Ferguson and John Cochran, a rather contrary economist. Two more books. So this book, real quick, this is gonna be a long video. It's just what it is. What it is. This book kind of follows along. I saw a documentary. I don't even know how many years ago now. 7, 8, 9 years ago. It was called Hitler's Children, and it's about children of Nazis. And that's the name of this book. But it was fascinating. Like people who actually hold a resemblance to these monsters and how it just has screwed them up. It's like a relative did this. I did not. I abhor it, but they have the features. It's so surreal. So I kind of wanted to revisit that in a way to read about some of these other relatives of these people. So I picked up this book, Children of Nazis: The Sons and Daughters of Himmler, Goering, Hess, Mengele, and others, living with a father's monstrous legacy. And a nice blurb from Robert O. Paxton, the guy who wrote Vichy France in the Anatomy of Fascism, which I have. This is by Tanya Krasniansky, and it's translated by Molly Grogan. It says here, in 1940, the German sons and daughters of great Nazi dignitaries Himmler, Goering, Hess, Frank, Bormann, another Hess, Speer, and Mengele were children of privilege at 4, 5, or 10 years old, surrounded by affectionate, all-powerful parents. Although innocent at the time, they eventually discovered the extent of their father's occupations. These men, their fathers, who were capable of loving their children and receiving love in return, were leaders of the Third Reich and would later be convicted as monstrous war criminals. How did the children of these leaders deal with the aftermath of the war and the skeletons that would haunt them forever? In this enlightening book, Tanya Krasniansky examines the responsibility of 8 descendants of Nazi notables caught somewhere between stigmatization, worship, and amnesia. By tracing the unique experiences of these children, she probes at the relationship between them and their fathers and examines the ideas of how responsibility for the fault is continually borne by the descendants. Indeed. So I'm not sure when this book came out, but 2019. It was first published in France in 2016. But if you're, that documentary called Hitler's Children was, it was very moving. In particular, the son of one of them went to Auschwitz and was just, I think he was the child of, which one was he? It might have been a Hess, one of the Hesses, but yeah, he was just trying. He's like he can't make amends, but he's like, I am not him, and he was talking to a school of a field trip of Jewish students that were there, and they listened to him, and they came up and they hugged him. and he was crying. And I was just like, "Ah, I'm dying over here. I'm crying. I'm not crying. You're crying." It was very moving. It was very moving. So let's end on a uplifting book. Get back to where it all matters to me, which is my faith. Um, and I saw this, and I was a Baker academic book, and they always have great theological books. And this was marked down, and I'm really pleased to take a nice deep dive into the meaning of Protestant theology, Luther, Augustine, and the gospel that gives us Christ. Philip Carey. I think I have a couple of other books by him as well. So this says here, this creative and illuminating discussion of Protestant theology helps readers rethink their own theology and its place in the larger story of Christian thought. Philip Carey explains how Luther's theology arose from the Christian tradition, particularly from the spirituality of Augustine. Luther departed from the Augustinian tradition and inaugurated distinctively Protestant theology when he identified the gospel that gives us Christ as its key concept. More than any other theologian, Luther succeeds in carrying out the Protestant intention of putting faith in the gospel of Christ alone. Carey also explores the consequences of Luther's teachings as they unfold in the history of Protestantism. So this is going to be very useful for me because I've been dipping into a lot of different Catholic readings lately. Whoop, focus, and but I still hold to the Protestant theology throughout, and so I'm really looking forward to giving this a read. I wonder if Johnny Keene out there, if you've got this one, or if you're interested in this one. Johnny Keene, he has turned me on to so many different theological books, and I've spent a small fortune on books that Johnny Keene has shown on his channel. But I have a rich, rich library of spiritual resources now. So shout out to you, Johnny. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, we're at 52 minutes, and I think it's time to start getting dinner ready. I'm going to try to put up some Christmas lights. Gotta go check on my boo, Martine, and see if she's feeling okay. I gotta make sure she's eating and recovering. So hopefully we can get that Bertram's thing filmed as soon as she's able. But I hope to have an update soon on Miss Marple reading Nemesis in December, which is right around the corner, which is this weekend, I think. So anyway, I hope you're all doing well out there. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. I hope you're all doing well around the world, wherever you're tuning in from. Thank you for coming to my channel and supporting it and just subscribing and liking and commenting. I enjoy it so much. I'm sorry for the long pause, but there was a lot of things going on, and just with Thanksgiving and cooking and taking care of Martine. So I know it's been a couple weeks since my last video, but I'm hoping to be back on track now as we move into December. So until next time, BookTube, thanks for joining in, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.